Good evening. It's the Monday of the second week of Easter. Today, April 20th, is also the anniversary of Columbine shooting. So I really would like to lift up the victims of that terrible, terrible shooting many years ago as well. If you would like to center yourself, I'm going to light a candle, and I invite you also to find some space, to find some peace, to let God and Christ into this moment right now. If you would please pray with me. Lord Jesus, stay with us, for evening is at hand and the day is past. Be our companion in the way. Rekindle our hearts and awaken hope, that we may know you in Scripture and the breaking of bread. Grant this for the sake of your love. Amen. Tonight's meditation is about what are you talking about? Or shall I rather say, what are you talking about? Or what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That is not only a question for us now. Maybe you have been talking about COVID-19. Maybe you have been talking about the beautiful, beautiful day it is outside. Maybe you have just talking about the grocery list or how difficult it is to stay inside at the stay-at-home order. What are you talking about? This is the question Jesus asked two disciples. The story is taken from Luke's Gospel, Luke 24, verses 14 to 17. Sorry, the pages got stuck. This is the same story which we're going to read this coming Sunday as the scripture for the sermon. A familiar story, the road to Emmaus. Luke 24. That same day, two of them were going to Emmaus, a village 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they talked about what had happened. While they were talking and wondering, Jesus came up and walked with them, but their eyes were held and they did not recognize him. He asked them, "What are you talking about?" The two stood still, looking sad. Then one named Cleophas answered, "Why? It seems you are the only one in Jerusalem who does not know what had happened there these past few days." And he asked, "What is it?" They replied, "It is about Jesus of Nazareth. He was a prophet, mighty in word and deed before God and the people. But the chief priests and our rulers sentenced him to death. They handed him over and he was crucified. Yet we had hoped that he would redeem Israel." This is where I would like to stop the story for right now, and we continue the story later on this week. The last sentence. Yet we had hoped that he would redeem Israel. We had hoped, and those hopes did not work out. We had hoped. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I know in my lives and in the life of others, we had hoped. We had hoped for the job interview to give us the job. We had hoped that the results of the CAT scan would show no cancer. We had hoped that our boss would not fire me. We had hoped that the first sign of forgetfulness would not turn into dementia. We had hoped the company would rebound before all these lays off. We had hoped. And especially now in the time of COVID, I know many of us would say we had hoped. We'd hoped. just like these two disciples on the road to Emmaus. One of them is Cleopas, and the others, we don't know. And that's an interesting question. What is the name of the other disciple? I have an idea. I have a suspicion. If the one person is called Cleopas, maybe the other person is you. You are walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, 7 miles. You are the other person who is so disappointed, who has no idea that Jesus is risen, who does not understand that Jesus is walking with you. Maybe it is you. You and Cleopas are walking 7 miles, takes you about 2 hours, and all what you can think of is all we had hoped. I know in my life there have been many incidences where I thought I had hoped and it didn't work out. And all what I do is head down and walk and talk about my hopes which didn't work out. Just like Cleopas and the other person, like Cleopas and you. I see this story is so true regarding God in our lives. I don't really care if it is factual or historical, but I knew that I have been there on that road to Emmaus. I have been there on that walk when I said I'd hoped and it didn't happen. And how disappointed I was. And I couldn't see any further than just the hand in front of my eyes. And then, out of the blue, Jesus shows up. And he asked, "What are you talking about?" And I had to retell the story of what just happened and what I'd hoped for and why I'm so disappointed. And only then I realize I am not alone. Jesus is beside me even when I can't recognize him. Jesus is beside me even with all the uncertainty. Jesus is beside me even when I said I'd hoped. Jesus is beside me in all the uncertainty, in all the worries, in the disappointment, in the fear. I can embrace the unknown and I can live hopefully in the face of anything life throws at me because I know Jesus walks right next to me. And I know this is the faith to which I gladly give my life. And I hope that you can join me there as well. On the way to Emmaus, or whatever road you're walking on. Maybe you had time today on this beautiful day to take a walk. Maybe it is tomorrow. But please remember, you're not alone. Jesus is walking right with you, with all the disappointment you might have, with all the hopes which might not turn out, with all the worries, with all the fears. Jesus is right there, walking with you. You do not need to be afraid because he's walking in front of you, he's walking next to you, and he is walking behind you to catch you just in case when you fall. And I hope that this might give you some security and some safety for tonight and all the days to come. Amen. Please join me in prayer. Gracious God, you are the risen Lord. This story about the two people walking to Emmaus tells us so much about you. You, O God, are not passive, but you pursue us. You are the ones who walk with us. You are the one who will also keep our eyes open to recognize you. You are the one we can only ask appear before us suddenly, unexpectedly, in all your glory, so that we too may proclaim to a world in despair and in fear that we have seen the risen Lord who walks next to us. Good night, my friends. On Wednesday, we will continue the story of the road to Emmaus. Please join us, and I hope that you will feel that Christ is walking next to you. Good night.